This is a special live recording because we are celebrating 1 year of the Ascension Path with Twin Essence podcast. We are going to be pulling back the curtain and digging into all things podcast creation for Twin Essence, as well as the branding video that we filmed about a year ago, We Are Twin Essence. If you have not seen We Are Twin Essence, it is the video that is pinned on our YouTube homepage and channel. And it's also on our webpage, our website, twinessence.com. It's on the homepage. Yeah, so if you're joining us live or you're watching this back or listening at whatever point, feel free to chime in the comments. What is your favorite episode of the Ascension Path with Twin Essence? Lacey, we can start with you. Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that I'm definitely biased because we know what's coming before anyone else does. But if I had to pick one, it's really, really hard. I like a lot of the more recent ones. I would say the Vindemiatrix episode of Visionaries. That one, Vindemiatrix Starseeds, I think it's called Vindemiatrix Starseeds Visionaries. That one was so fun to film. And like the energy of those beings was just so contagious. I feel like we sang in it. It was just overall light, airy, and playful. Yeah, I mean, Vindemiatrix, they are such fun. I feel like they're so fun when you channel them too, so I totally agree. Like, that's an amazing episode. I will have to go with, I mean, I love the Regulus Star Beings episode, so Galactic North Stars. We're Leo suns and they just have such a contagious energy to me, like because they're so confident, they're so bold, they're so powerful. And so I feel like whenever I connect with them, I just feel so invincible and so much in my power, which I think is why I like that one a lot. I'm again, like Lacey said, biased because we do know what's coming up, but we actually have an episode coming out next week. Yeah, next week, right? Yes. Wow, time flies really fast. Where we're actually reflecting and telling stories on our time in Croatia. And that episode I feel like is so powerful just because it's like a transmission when you listen to it. I don't know what it is. It's so energetically activating for me if I hear clips from it or listen to it. So I'm really excited to see what everyone thinks about that episode. And if you're joining us just a few minutes late, we are talking about our favorite episode of the podcast so far. If you have a favorite episode, feel free to put it in the live chat or put it in the comments on whatever platform you are streaming and listening to this episode from. But so much happened, I think, to bring us to the point that we are at, especially as it relates to our podcast, as it relates to our branding video, We Are Twin Essence. Um, and when we created this podcast, it was probably several months, if not a year in the making to even get to the point of launching it because there were so many moving parts that we needed to figure out how we wanted to show up on a podcast. Absolutely. And we launched this podcast and this platform back in 2025. But the work for this podcast and creating it really started pre 2025. I would say I feel like towards the end of 2024 is when we started to get the nudges to start creating something like this platform. And it's so interesting to see what we initially thought we were going to do for a podcast because it's so different from what the Ascension Path is essentially. Oh yeah, we've changed. I mean, like everybody, I feel like we've changed and grown so much to where we are now. But even when we were creating it, it was like you would start working on it and then we'd start to change a little bit. And then we had to realign, feel like what is really going to be the most authentic version of ourselves when we create this. And as it relates to the launch for this podcast, we really were in such a realignment phase with Twin Essence in general. Like we started so traditional, right? Traditional psychic mediumship, house cleansings, um, paranormal focus, right? And we had just started to go through such a realignment, and this was obviously after our Starseed awakening too. So we started to go through this realignment of what really feels like us, what's going to feel the best, the most authentic, the most aligned when we're showing up and speaking. Yeah, and the first iteration of the Ascension Path of Twin Essence podcast was actually Spirit Hour, which is so comical So not, I feel like so not where we are now. So we laugh when we talk about it. Like we even had the graphic made. Like we were like, this is it. And then we changed again. Like we grew and evolved again. And we were like, no, we cannot launch with this name. But we also like didn't really have the vision fully. We were like, oh, we're gonna talk about XYZ, I guess, but I don't really know. And we kept kind of like kicking the can down the road, but it's because like it hadn't fully arrived yet when I look back on it. Like we hadn't fully like bloomed into the new identity yet to really feel anchored in it and know what we were doing. So we kind of started with a really like Spirit Hour would have been really, really safe and would have been generic and it would have been what everyone else is doing,
Yeah.
basically. And we had already gone through our Starseed Awakenings, right? We started that. I don't even really know what year that was, but it was well before we had started Starseed work with Twin Essence. So
Mhm.
we were kind of doing it behind the scenes. It wasn't like the forefront of what we were doing. Um, but I would say in 2025, like everything started to shift with Twin Essence and our own personal journeys, and we started to step more fully into that Starseed mission.
Yeah.
And as we step more into that Starseed mission, and we had this idea for a branding video as well as a podcast, like Spirit Hour really didn't fit who we were becoming.
No.
And that's where that realignment came from. Like we started to just not, we couldn't deny it, right? Like all the Starseed work that we do now was coming up in those sessions. And some people were uncomfortable with it, some people were open to it, but we knew like our work is changing. We know what the mission is. How do we make this work? Like how do we make this pivot? How do we realign? And so, like Lacey said, we had to fully step into the Starseed missions. And I think that's where that name, the Ascension Path with Twin Essence, kind of was born. It kind of came from. It was a more aligned and I would say like encompassing or integrated name for what we wanted to bring into a podcast to share with the world. I suppose we could have called it the Starseed Path, but that just wasn't what came through. No, no, I think there's more to it than that, though, right? And like as we were navigating this realignment and trying to birth the podcast, figure out what this podcast looked like, there was extreme dips and duality occurring. Like we had really important friendships that we were losing at this time, which we was hard not to associate with us stepping more fully into our Starseed missions, right? Like we kind of felt like, oh, so now that we're identifying this way, is that why you don't want to work with me anymore? Is that why you don't want to be my friend anymore? Is that why you're putting the wall up now? Yeah, it was really, really hard. We navigated a lot of changes in terms of like loss, but like grief, um, all of the uncertainty and the fears that surface as you're making a big pivot and change publicly, right? Because we weren't sure how our Starseed work would be accepted or received. There was obviously a small percentage of like client base and followers who were not satisfied with it or wanted us to continue doing mediumship or what felt and house cleansings that because that's what felt comfortable for them. But it just we grew out of alignment with it. It no longer felt good to the two of us. It just felt hard to be a version of ourselves that wasn't authentic or accurate anymore. And I think that that's a telltale sign of ascension in your own ascension path is when you start to feel that you're playing a role that really isn't authentic to you anymore. Like that's when it's time to make the pivot and let the new creative process and version of you be birthed. I agree. It's like the this is evidence it's working phrase that Lacey and I like to use a lot. And it's not that you have to like always lose things, I think, to come into alignment. But I think for our path in particular, there were individuals that were uh, maybe threatened is the word. I don't know if threatened by the mission. Maybe it was like an energetic thing that they felt within us. But it was really hard. Like it was just a very human experience. And but we knew ultimately that what we were doing was the right move and this was what we needed to do. It was what was best for us. And like even through like the grief, through losing friendships, I lost my heart dog during that time. We ultimately knew what we were building towards. and that it was the right move. And I'll just add too, like there was a lot of investment we were doing in ourselves at this time too. Like we were putting a lot into ourselves to like understand our strategy, understand who we are, understand how we operate, and healing work that we were doing on ourselves so that we could show up as the best version of ourselves.
Yeah, there was mentorship, there were um bigger changes that we were investing in for the two of us in our own personal journey. And I think that when you start to invest in yourself, like things energetically change, right? Like your frequency is going to change, your reality is going to change. And for individuals who are still stuck in not feeling like they can fully invest in anything for themselves, like that comes from its own self limitations and programming. So we had already made big leaps in terms of that and transcending any of those beliefs of worthiness and self investment. And it all kind of started to fall into place. But I do want to talk a little bit about like what alignment felt like,
Mm-hmm.
because it was in the beginning, it was kind of scary and
Uncomfortable.
and it was a really good lesson in not tying yourself to 3D evidence.
Oh, I agree. I agree. I think, I guess when I reflect back at that time period, alignment was new to us. Like that sounds really naive to say, but I feel like we used to just kind of do things like it's what we thought we were supposed to do, or it's what we were like, maybe what we were lit up by in the moment, which is fine, but we weren't fully stepping into the mission and truly creating alignment with that. And I think that's where we were finding ourselves getting frustrated, right? Like getting frustrated with um maybe like not understanding why our sessions were changing, not understanding what to change to find success by our definition. And when we did start to realign and find alignment, then it felt, I would say it felt authentic. It felt like
Real.
real. It felt like we weren't pushing. Like I feel like there's so many people out there who spend time like pushing and like trying to extract something or trying to force something. And when we aligned at like with Twin Essence and what with our missions, it we stopped that pushing feeling. And it felt like we could kind of sit back and receive. And that's ultimately what what created this, right? What created this space for us to be able to show up and channel and feel like we could be ourselves and fully express all the messages that we receive.
Yeah, and the same thing with once it felt good to move into alignment because we had moved out of alignment with what we were currently doing with Twin Essence. So I think that we got a little bit used to the feeling of being misaligned and like trying to push and pull and not understanding what was going on. Whereas once we moved into alignment of, this starseed work is what lights us up. It's what we love doing. And then getting the confirmation of like, this is part of our mission with bridging the 3D and 5D and the Ascension Path in general. Um, that was helpful. But we didn't have like any external validation or tangible evidence that any of it would work or that it would matter or make a difference. And I think that that's what made the alignment hard in the beginning because it's like launch a YouTube channel. I don't really know who cares. Launch a podcast. I don't know if anyone cares. Even though we did have like a reaction to it, right? It wasn't like it was like crickets
Yeah.
and nothing happening.
I also think too, like well, like you said, the contrast of like the being misaligned versus aligned, like that was needed, I think, in order to truly feel like, oh, this is alignment and this is eventually what we're gonna be helping clients with, right? Um, oh my gosh, the thought just popped out of my head too. But oh, here's what it is. The 3D evidence piece. Like the only thing we were going on was like, this is what we know our mission is. Like I feel like that's the only thing that we could really ride on was like, this is what we've received. This is what we're, I don't want to say supposed to be doing, but this is what we're being called to do. Like, so we must answer the call. We must step forward into this.
And like we were creating it for the sake of creating it. I mean, obviously there were hopes and goals that like people would find this who really needed to hear this information, but we weren't creating anything with an expectation of an outcome. Like it wasn't like I'm trying to get XYZ out of this podcast. Like that's not why we created it. We created it for ourselves. Like we created it for ourselves and a version of us that truly could have used this information as a guide when they were navigating their starseed awakenings. Um, and purely to push us to grow and step into leadership too, right?
Yeah. Well, and I would say the secondary aspect there is like we did want to create something that star seeds could come to and that they could listen to and find themselves in, right? And help them understand what's my lineage, what is this all about? It's a grounded and practical approach to it too, which is different than what we'd seen on our own awakening path, right? And looking into our own guides.
And the biggest thing was to not have it tied into fear-based beliefs and programming that we were witnessing. I know we've talked about this before, but it was not easy to step into that Starseed Lightworker leadership position and start the podcast because we were very different from what we were seeing online. All of
Mhm.
the Ascension guides and the individuals who were doing Starseed work were ungrounded and airy fairy and still using 3D constructs to describe Ascension beliefs and processes, still stuck in programming that was outdated. And so it was hard to see ourselves in the Starseed Ascension New Earth space in those early days because it was so different from what people were doing. Now, I would say we know that's how we knew it was what we were supposed to do, right? Like looking
Mhm.
back, it's like, of course I was supposed to be it. We're supposed to be these Ascension guides because we're supposed to be different. If we did what everybody else was doing, there'd be nothing unique about it.
Well, and so we created it, right? Like we carved out our own little space of what we believe, what we're receiving, how we can help, how we can provide a space, right, for starseed curious or star seeds versus trying to fit the mold of what's already existing and what doesn't feel right to us. And how we express ourselves was really important in that process. We've changed a lot throughout, I think, the podcasting journey, and we've really relaxed into it. We've been able to channel it on this podcast, which we love doing. We always joke too, like when we look back at old episodes, we're like, my God, who even were we then, right? Like I'm I always say like just start listening at the Earth's Inception episode. I feel like that's when we really started to find our voice. And there's nothing wrong with the earlier episodes. It's just me simply reflecting and seeing how much I've grown though.
Yeah, I I think that when we created the podcast studio, that helped a lot with it.
Yes.
Because a couple of the early episodes, I would say we weren't we were kind of just like in a Zoom space.
Hmm.
And then we created the podcast studio, which was so fun to create. And it was a whole creative vision to bring in the spaceship, bring in Bob that you see here, bring in the sign, the mics, the chairs. We literally created these
Yeah.
pillows that we have with us of the pink and the blue beings. Um,
Lyran and the Sirian.
yeah, and they look like a typical alien head, but we literally sewed these ourselves and like created them with our own little pattern and fabric that we bought. So that was really fun. Um, and then it really helped us really step into that with podcasting. I do have to ask you, Marley, what do you feel like you've learned from podcasting? Or what's like the best lesson, biggest lesson?
Um, well, let's see. I mean, there's like a lot of the standard ones that everyone talks about with podcasting, which is like you have to give yourself grace, right? Like you got to go easy on yourself sometimes because when you start podcasting, like you notice all these small details about yourself that you don't like. I think about how much we would I don't want to say edit, but how much we would like kind of criticize ourselves and be like, and part of it's because we do want to improve, right? But like we would really pick ourselves apart of like the or the like or repeating words, but you eventually just start to realize like this is how I communicate. There's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes it's how we channel, right? Like when we channel, like the reality of how we're pulling through, the reality of our human brain and how we pull through information is that there is repetitive phrases, I feel like sometimes.
Absolutely. I felt like we struggled with the editing part only because it felt like, oh, every like, every every whatever, we felt very like we felt it was hard to watch back in the beginning. I used to call it like I still call it this, but like reviewing game tape.
Yes.
I'm like, well, if we do this differently, like strategize. But it was like the goal was to never change who we were. It was just to get better at public speaking. And I think you can definitely tell when you watch the show and maybe even listen to it, you can probably tell as well. But it was not easy with the old editing days.
No, I also think too, like part of it is there's two of us, so we had to figure out our flow, just like we figure out in our sessions. We have a flow in our sessions. Most clients that have come into a session can see this and feel this with us, but it's the same thing with podcasting. We have to kind of find that flow energetically, and we both like to talk, right? So like find a way to balance it and not talk over, but also natural conversation is that there are times we're gonna get loud and we're gonna make jokes and we might cut one another off if we have to get the joke in, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like they teach you in school it's such a bad thing, but in reality, it's like this is how we communicate with each other. Like the camera gets set up and this is us having a conversation.
Yeah, the cutting each other off, that was normal. That's not anything new. The camera just it's just watching it back now on a camera. I feel like we do that in real life, so it's whatever. But it's also just how we talk. Like it's not in an offensive way. Like we're not like,
Oh,
be quiet, I'm cutting you off. Like it's nothing like that. So it's kind of
it's a
funny.
riff. It's a riff. Like we start going like we always talk about like the horse. We call it like a horse. Like it starts to gallop and then all of a sudden it's like and we're off. Like we have to catch the horse, right? Like we just start going.
Yep, it definitely is what we go through on it, but the podcasting journey has been fun to step into your voice and honestly also just storytelling and being able to share
Mhm.
experiences in a long form.
Setting.
Yeah,
I mean,
long form
again,
setting.
we're Leo suns. We like to talk. We're generators. Like, it's really hard sometimes to fit it when you talk about like talking heads or short clips. Like, it's really hard for us to get that condensed down into a short thing. So, we so appreciate long form content at times like this.
And I feel like if you ever met us in real life, like this is how we are in real life as well. So it's no different. I just feel like it's it's a different experience when you're watching it, but being in our energy in a session or in person, then you'll be like, oh, okay, this is the same. This is the same.
But also, I want to talk about during this time, as we were realigning, as we're creating this podcast, we're also planning for We Are Twin Essence, our branding video. And this was such a long, artistic, intuitive journey, I think, for us too. And I feel like it really lines up well with the 1 year anniversary of our podcast because we launched our podcast at the same time as our YouTube channel, at the same time as this video launched.
Oh, We Are Twin Essence was such a creative baby for the two of us. I We just had this desire to film a branding video and we had no idea why or what it would look like. And that started actually in 20 like fall of 2024 as well.
It was okay. The branding video actually came up. We always talk about our QHHT sessions, and the branding video actually came up during our QHHT sessions. Like that's how long, like even before that, that's how long this video was going on since 2024, even I think spring it was going on forever, I feel like.
It was, but we were already in the development stages of it during that QHHT, so it wasn't like they were telling us something new. It was like we were already in development. But
Yes, it
we
was more validation, I would say.
yes, but we started that video and I mean, again, if you've never seen it, you have to watch it on our homepage on the website or on our YouTube channel homepage. It's pinned, it's the pinned welcome video, basically. But the first iteration of that is insane when I look back. Like absolutely bonkers because I'm like, why would you have ever thought that was a good idea? It like wasn't even authentic to who you were,
It was
really.
very misaligned.
It was like almost like what I would call like corporate too. Like I so for context, I do work with like film and stuff as part of my day job. And so I know a lot about like writing video concepts, but I feel like all of my experience was very like healthcare testimonial related. So it was kind of like what I would call corporate videos because it wasn't artistic in any way, right? It was more like go and
Informational.
yes, informational, educational, and it was like go and get the story from the people, and that's how you tell the story. So, like the first iteration, we were like, maybe we do an on-site. event because we were doing in-person events at that time.
Hmm.
And we were still doing like cleansings and
More traditional
paranormal
readings.
mediumship. That the fall of 2024 would have been like our first paranormal in-person paranormal event, where we were talking about haunted locations and all of our paranormal experiences, which was like a dream of ours that was very, very fun to do. But so like the first iteration of that video was like, okay, maybe we bring in like clients, we talk about their experiences with the two of us, kind of like testimonial focused, and then like show us doing our work on camera.
So not what we ended up doing, right? Like
It
it,
wasn't. It wasn't what we ended up doing, obviously, which when
and
I
that's
look
I
back.
think too, like that's part of that process. Like we knew we found the person, right? And it was like we had to find the person, work with the person, but the concept kind of shifted as we were realigning during this time too. So talk about crazy. Like not only are you going through a realignment as a business, but you're also trying to create an evergreen branding video that's going to match whatever this realignment is that you're currently in the process of doing, right?
It's
When you look back, you're like, what were we thinking?
it's so future oriented thinking though, and like
Yes.
connecting to your higher self is like
Yes.
instrumental in that because it's like you can't hold that vision if you're not clear, like it's not going to make sense, right? So you
Mhm.
have to have some of the clarity to actually move forward with the projects. That's rule number one. But we also had this thing where it was like the initial concept, which was like end of 2024, like the two of us talking about it, right? We weren't
Yeah.
like really writing something, but the two of us talking about it, we were like, well, we need to have some sort of idea and vision before we go to someone with it because we can't just be like, let's start from scratch. We don't know what we're doing. We want to have a vision.
And that's also like how like cinematographers work, like videographers, like they're here to help you create this vision. So similar to how we are when we work with photographers, like we have a vision, right? And they're but we also are open to working with them and their expertise because they're also doing like it's their art too. That's how Lacey and I view it. Like it's their art too, and we're open to it and we want to be expanded by that. Same thing with the video, right? Like same thing with the video. And so we kind of had this concept that we had initially worked on. And then what started was a series of pivot after pivot. What felt like that for us.
Oh man. But I also want to say like we like the collaborative environment of working with a photographer or a videographer or cinematographer. And we also like that co-creative energy,
Yes.
like you were saying. It's like that collaboration and co-creation. And
Like we're
so
holding a vision, but we're also a canvas.
so we wanted to do a video and then it was like, okay, but like who?
Hmm.
Who do we work with? And I think we had asked our photographer at the time for recommendations. We were also just kind of like looking, like doing a Google search, trying to find something. And then we essentially landed on our cinematographer that we found through Instagram, actually. And we stood really hard and fast in that we wanted it to be very aligned and we wanted like the best of the best. We were like, we want to work with the best. Like it's our first professional video experience. We want to work with someone who knows what they're doing, who can guide us through this, and it feels very expansive for the two of us. So we landed on the individual that we worked with, who is actually linked, like he's linked in our
He's
branding
incredible.
video, Sam.
He's
He was
incredible.
amazing.
Also, that was the first time we ever worked with a male creative. I just want to put that out there. Like for most of what Twin Essence does, we oftentimes select women. Like we love working with women. It's our ideal client. It's everything behind the scenes. But we knew we were like, Sam is the one.
Yeah, and so I think we reached out to him in January 2025, and then that's kind of what got the ball rolling of like
The concept
the co
discussions and
yes, concepts and like vision. And by the time I feel like he was traveling when we first contacted him, by the time we had our first meeting though, it might have been March because I think he was traveling.
the concept
Maybe,
changed a lot though.
but the concept had changed by the time we had our first meeting. So we sent an initial draft of like, hey, this is our idea. Would you want to work with us on this project? How do you feel about it? Because I never want to work with someone who's like,
The-
that's not my jam and I don't like that.
or doesn't like believe in what we do. Like the person does have to be open.
Yes.
Like I'm not saying you have to be a full believer, but you have to be open that like if you're gonna help paint the vision, you do have to be open.
Yeah. So we were like, okay, like here's the initial draft of a concept. Um, And then by the time we actually met our first meeting, we had changed the concept and it had become more creative because
Yes.
things started to clarify for the two of us.
And it was like purely channeled. Like
Oh,
everything that we narrated in the video was like stuff that we channeled. And so that's where the concept was changing. Like we had to open ourselves to be the channel for it. And then as that concept shifted, the visuals did. And we had a location. Well, I should say we didn't have a location to start. Then we had a location. Then as the concept shifted, the location shifted too.
oh
And
man, this is the series of like alignment lessons.
and then it was like, the initial the kind of location that we had in mind, like ended up not working out. Like it ended up being something where like there were so many pivots. Um, I'm gonna call them like pivots or things changing with like the owners of that like property that eventually we were like, you know what? We need to change this. Like something doesn't feel right. We need to realign with what's going to be best for our vision and creative process.
And like that friendship with the individuals also changed.
Yeah, and that was part of that realignment process, right? It
it
was losing the friendship
it
too.
also changed, but it became a series of we were trying to schedule and the schedule wasn't working. And then it was like there were all these stipulations and rules for when we were filming on that property. And so we decided, we sat with it. We were like, this doesn't feel good anymore. Like this feels like it would hinder the creative process. And I don't want to be stressed and I don't want to be contained. Like this is about unleashing us at our fullest power and expression. It's not about containing it and walking on eggshells. So we were like, we need to pivot the location. And the location came through, the new location came through in such a beautiful way. And it was so easy, which is how we knew it was aligned.
So easy.
It was so easy to pivot that we knew it was aligned.
And it was a place that we had done a photo shoot at before, so we knew it, and it had a lot more options and space for us. We were able to secure that and not have to stress about permits. Um, and then it was like, but this is what I laugh about because, like, even though the concept has shifted, we channeled a new narration script.
We
We
went to
had it. We
storyboard.
moved that new location. We then were like, yeah. Also, we're gonna change our wardrobe too because we need like we realize like there's something else that needs to be done here. And so that was like, I mean, that was less than a month out that we were like, also we're gonna be pivoting the wardrobe. We need an elevated look here. We want to feel into like we
Our
really
house.
want to connect to the highest timeline, our higher self. And so that's why we pivoted and we made sure that we were wearing royal codes for that video.
It's the only time Marley ever borrowed clothing from me,
Ever.
which
Yep.
people think is crazy because we're identical twins and we're like the same size, but we just never borrow clothes to each other because it's like an identity thing as an identical twin. You feel like you share a lot already that you're like, no, don't touch this. This is me. This is what I wear. But it's the only time Marley borrowed an outfit so that we could coordinate and
Last
match.
minute, it was last minute. We had no choice,
We had no,
right?
but it was to match in a way that was authentic to us, right? Like I wore because we had an outfit change. So we had like a purple and a deep burgundy kind of red outfit, and then we had outfits that were black and purple. So I wore the purple and then Marley wore the black because it was like Marley was never gonna wear purple. Like that just didn't feel
No,
right.
no.
So it was just like crazy how we made these series of pivots with like the channeled narration. We did the storyboarding, which was very channeled. It was like working with someone who hadn't worked with someone who was a spiritual light worker or like spiritual. I was like, yes, I'm getting a vision and I'm walking through tall grass and I have my hand like it was like a gladiator shot. Like we were
Every creative project we ever do, this is what it's like.
and it was like that because our first photo shoot ever was the same way. We were like, I'm sorry to this woman. We were like, we don't know where this location is, but we were being shown an image of cement steps, and it was like she knew the haunted location and where to take us.
Yes.
So it's always hard when someone doesn't know us and you're kind of like trying to work with a new creative, but it always ends up being aligned and working out
You
perfectly.
have to trust it, which is what we do and how we're showing up to and working with them. I will say what was so interesting too as we neared closer and closer to the shoot with the location, the wardrobe pivots, we also had car issues. And we ended up not being able to have like the typical vehicles that we would drive. We ended up having to borrow it from our family, and it was like a bigger vehicle than we're used to driving. And then it ended up being that we needed the bigger vehicle to fit everything in for the video. We never would have been able to fit it in one of our cars. And so it ended up being perfectly aligned that it was happening.
We had so many props, so we did end up needing the bigger vehicle. And then we were worried about rain and weather. It
Yes.
ended up being fine, but it was during wildfires. The wildfires in Canada, the smoke had drifted down to the
Yep.
States. So it was kind of like hot but
Hazy.
hazy. It ended up being beautiful for the branding video. Um, and then like everything because we knew the location, right?
Hmm.
But things had changed. Like this, there's usually this open hill, like grass area. It was all like tall prairie grass when we got there, which ended up being amazing for
It
the
ended
shoot.
up actually enhancing the vision because originally we were like, no, what are we gonna do? Like everything's really grown in spring. And so, but it worked out perfectly.
And we almost broke our ankle like a million
Multiple.
times during that shoot because it was just hard to navigate the uneven terrain and the tall grass with our sandals on. And you couldn't go barefoot because it would like poke your it
It
was
was
hard.
too
It would poke your
hard.
feet like straw. But it ended up being like gorgeous, and so much of it was like intuitively guided on like, let's try doing a shot like this, let's do that.
And let's circle back with the lanterns and the moon. And it was like, and then there's fireflies. And so it was like, you just have to kind of be in it and trust it. And we couldn't have asked for a better outcome, I think.
And what no one knows about that shoot too is that it was a 10-hour day.
Yes.
It was a 10-hour day to bring you that minute and a half video. We do have all of the footage that didn't make it into the final cut. We have all of that. So like once in a while you'll see us pop something up on social media, um, that kind of thing that we use it for because there's just so much that didn't make it into the final cut even.
Hmm.
Um, but it ended up being so aligned. Like we felt like, whoa, did we ever connect to our higher self and vision? I do want to add like a funny story. When we did the voiceover, we had to film that in our car, and you couldn't have the car running or the air conditioning running because of how sensitive the mic was for the voiceover.
And it was really hot.
And it was like boiling hot. So it was like we would be dying of sweat and we'd do a take, and then it would be like turn the car on and blast AC for a while, then do
Turn
another
off, do
take.
another take. Um, it's fascinating.
And
But
Sam was a trooper during that.
yeah, well, I mean, and then I look back now and I think about like our photo shoot in Croatia, and I'm like, man, I thought it was hot when I filmed the branding video. Now I'm like, no, I've done things in much worse heat now.
Oh, absolutely. But even like doing the takes where we'd be like running in the grass or and then it would
And
be like,
rolling in ankles, saying fuck, ruining the shot. Like
yeah, it would be
classic.
like, and go again. This time don't say fuck, don't say shit
Yeah.
this time. So it was like it was just really funny, and it was a fun experience. And even the nighttime shots when it started to get dark, like we went back to the field, we brought our lanterns. There were lightning bugs, which was beautiful in the tall grass. The moon, the little crescent moon was out. And what nobody knows is that the assistant had a huge light, like this bar. I don't even know what to call it. It looked like a tube, kind of like light that he had on a setting that made it look like flicker like a candle, so he could give us like more light to get the shot because it was like getting really dark and our lanterns like
It was not the power of the lantern,
no.
not to demystify it, but it was an incredible experience that we haven't learned a lot about ourselves in.
Oh, and it was just such a beautiful day. Such a beautiful transcendent experience. So I highly recommend you check out We Are Twinessence on our homepage or on the YouTube channel homepage. And then you get to see the final product of the magic, and how that came together and was created with a storyboard and a vision and trusting ourselves. Like
Mhm.
all the things that went wrong, I say with quotations, really were all about realigning us to what it needed to be.
Yes. And this is all happening in that period of realignment as a business, stepping fully into our Starseed missions, rolling with the duality, right? The ups and the downs, or what felt like turbulence at the time. And all the evidence we had was that we knew what we came here to do. We knew who we were, where we came from, and we knew that we had a mission that we needed to serve. And this is what we do. this is what we do with the women that we work with now.
It's all about navigating that ascension path. And when I did talk about it in QHHT, it was more about it being in alignment. It wasn't like anything like huge or like going to change
No,
anything.
it
It
was
was
validation on the steps that we were taking, though.
yes. And and that's what we do, right? We work on bridging the 3D and 5D, helping you step into alignment, helping you develop your own personal ascension path. Like this is what we do with women now.
Yes. So if you're interested in stepping further onto your ascension path and understanding your starseed lineage, we recommend in a private space, you can work with us through twin magic readings. So in these sessions, we're connecting you to your starseed lineage, connecting you to your mission and purpose, and then we're connecting you to alignment and ascension on your specific path because it does look different for everyone.
And if you're looking for more of a spiritually awakened Starseed curious community, we recommend you join us inside the Starseed Portal membership. This is a space with spiritual women that are navigating their own ascension paths and Starseed journeys. And we have bi-monthly calls that are live where you get to join us to receive transmissions or have Q&A with us, coaching, guidance, whatever it is that we are feeling called to share at that moment. And then we also have a private WhatsApp community where you can join a discussion space and connect with other members on their journeys and experiences, as well as receive voice note transmissions from the two of us that we like to drop into the space. Everything is recorded, so if you can't attend live, there are recordings of all the calls, but that is the Starseed Portal membership where we look to bring you ascension guidance and help you navigate your ascension path in alignment with your Starseed blueprint.
Yep, and the first 30 days are free. So if you want to test it out, see if it's the space for you, definitely join. Join in the fun, join in the transmissions, and we hope to see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much to all of us that are joining us live to celebrate this mile marker in our podcasting and Twin Essence journey.